Hey everyone, it's Marla. Welcome back to Twinstrology. I hope that you're all well. Today we are going to be continuing our discussion regarding the winter of transformation, and this time we're talking about Mars retrograde. Last time we talked about Mercury retrograde. So for a little over a week here, we're going to have Mars and Mercury in retrograde at the same time. Now, there's other planets in retrograde. Jupiter's in retrograde, Chiron's in retrograde, I think Neptune's in retrograde. But when we're focusing on these personal planets, they're a lot more intense. The outer planets, they move slowly and they spend half the year in retrograde. So while they're important, and they do bring transformation, they bring a very slow type of transformation, where these personal planets can really bring some quick shifts and some internal realizations. So I think that over the next 5 months, we can really expect a lot of these fast-moving shifts. Basically, we all jumped on a new timeline, right? I did a video about we all just took a giant leap, okay? We jumped on a new timeline, and now we have to catch up with that timeline. So we have to go through some inner transformation so that we become more in alignment with this new timeline. So this is what the planets are reflecting to us. They're telling us that we're going through this transformation. I believe now that we don't reflect the planets, but that the planets reflect us and where our consciousness is. So what are we going to be focused on with Mars retrograde? Well, Mars is going retrograde in Leo. This is Mars right here in the chart. And Leo represents our creative energy. Creativity is going to be a primary focus during this retrograde because a lot of this has to do with shifting our mission and taking that next step. Whatever that is, wherever you are in your journey, these next 5 months are helping you align with where you need to be. So yeah, a lot of you are preparing for some new stage of purpose or career where you're going to expose yourself more. And this is important to our Mars because our Mars represents our defenses, our boundaries. Our Mars can be, our Mars is strong and courageous, but it can also be very sensitive to criticism. This is our masculine energy. So we need to look at how our Mars is aligned with this next step. Where are our defenses? Where are our boundaries? There has to be this precious balance between defensiveness and boundaries, because we don't want to create limitations for ourselves, right? If we're defensive all the time, then we're creating a limitation. We're not open to other people. We're not opening to what they have to say. We may not be open to collaboration with other people. We may be very too focused on ourselves, which our Mars can become. And our boundaries are different because our boundaries are what tells other people how to treat us and what we expect from other people. So it's important to have boundaries, and we've been working on those boundaries. I believe it was the beginning of last year where I posted a video which was like karmic relationships under pressure, or under the microscope or something like that. Well, really this whole year, karmic relationships have really been the focus. One of the major focuses has been getting rid of these narcissistic relationships. Looking at the balance in relationships. How much is being given? How much is being received? Is the relationship in balance, or is one person needing to do all the work? And is that person you? So we're coming up to a shift in that cycle with relationships. So getting back to Mars and Leo, it is our creative energy, but Leo also rules relationships in terms of love affairs and our passion and having children. So Mars in Leo also has this aspect of looking at our relationships and saying, am I happy here? Does this relationship bring me joy? Am I passionate about this person? Am I passionate about life in the relationship that I am in? What is keeping me there? This is going to be with romantic people, but also friends and family, colleagues, all relationships. I think for a lot of those that are carrying the divine masculine template, I think there will be a focus on romantic relationships. And we'll get to that in a moment. But I think that, like, if you're single, it may not show up in a romantic way, but it may show up in friends or family around you. Of course, we're coming into the holidays, and so we will definitely be feeling pressure in relationships, because things that are not in alignment in those relationships, they keep being shown. So probably for a lot of you, the things that are going to come up are not going to necessarily be things that you haven't seen, but maybe things you haven't taken action on. And you may not be ready to take action on that until Mars goes direct, because another aspect of Mars retrograde is that we slow down, we go within. It isn't the time to go. Mars is the mover and shaker in us, the will, the drive, the survival, that I want to get things done, I want to get up and go. And so when Mars is retrograde, things just don't necessarily take off very well. And at the beginning of Mars retrograde coupled with Mercury retrograde, and then Mercury will be in shadow for a few weeks after that. Definitely December for sure, and probably until February, it's not really the time to push for something really big. Like if you're shifting into something new, if you're shifting into something new and they've been going well, that's one thing. But if you're kind of like thinking about unveiling something new and big that you're doing, it may not be time until February. Just keep that in mind. So it's a lot of time for internal work, thinking about all these things. So Mars is retrograde at the beginning of Leo. So a lot of the retrograde is actually going to be in Cancer. And Cancer represents our foundations. So I touched on this in the Mercury retrograde video, how we're working on our foundations. This is our Mars aspect. So when we're ready to unveil these new aspects of self, we want our Mars to be prepared. Because like I said, it's our Mars that can be sensitive to criticism, that can be defensive. And if our Mars isn't prepared, then we may not have the strength and courage to take those next steps. So this is very important. So Cancer rules our home and family, but it goes so much deeper than that, because Cancer is our foundation. Our foundation really, on one level, it's created when we're children by the type of family situation that we're raised in. But also, we have this eternal foundation that we carry with us on a soul level. And on that level, our family is our soul group. And so, the soul group is playing a role because some of those relationships are with people in your soul group that maybe you're going to work with, but you're not in alignment with at this point in time. When we're looking at the Cancer energy, one of the things that is part of this foundational self is our emotional responses. What triggers us? So this is going to probably be something that's going to come up, because this could be connected to, for instance, ways that you're still emotionally unregulated or dysregulated, or where you perhaps get triggered and it becomes a very touchy emotional situation for you, right? And that's the Mars energy. When our emotional self is triggered, that's when our Mars comes out, puts up those boundaries, and is often ready to fight in some way. Mars is going to be retrograding opposite Pluto and Venus. So we're, again, doing some deep dives with the Pluto energy. Now, Pluto has entered Aquarius. And so what we're looking at with our creative energy is, how do we embody our creativity and then share it with the collective energy? We need to look at some of our shadow self that may experience fears or triggers around releasing our gift into the world. Okay, so that's the Pluto energy. And then Venus is going to be crossing this Mars opposed Venus. And so this is the relationship aspect, bringing our relationships into balance, bringing our masculine and feminine into balance. Now don't forget, once Mars goes direct, Venus is going retrograde within less than 2 weeks. And then it's going to be the divine feminine's turn to do some transformation. So let me take this a little bit deeper for twin flames. Spirit is wanting us to have reunion with our twins. They are trying to align that. And so what we have during Mars retrograde and Venus retrograde is we're going to be looking at where the divine masculine resists union and where the divine feminine resists union. So it's a time where you're going to feel a lot of pressure. Remember, we all have divine masculine in us. So while those embodying the divine masculine, and even those that are in a male body as well, that is definitely going to strengthen this. Even if you're a man carrying primarily divine feminine energy, there's going to be resistance and stress. You could be feeling this already. Maybe when it comes to that new purpose that you're thinking about creating, there can be resistance to it coming up. Not sure if that's really what you want to do, not sure about the next step, maybe trying to talk yourself out of it, or just feeling like confused whether that's really what you want to do. There's going to be stress with relationships, and especially those that are in karmic relationships. Those karmic relationships, romantic relationships, are going to be under a lot of stress because that energy is changing. What I'm actually getting about the karmic relationships is that those are done. That karmic timeline with your karmic partner is done. It's whatever needed to be cleared for the ascension has now been cleared. Now that doesn't mean that there isn't fears and programming that's going to keep people in those relationships. That still has to be overcome. But what they're telling me is that whatever those contracts were for twins to come in and have a karmic relationship, those are done. And Spirit is wanting you to look at those relationships with a sense of higher purpose to them. Like, see the bigger picture and recognize that you were sacrificing something to go through that experience because it's important to your purpose here. It helped you grow and it helped you clear a lot of family patterns. But they're not needed anymore. So when the contracts are done and the relationship continues to exist, that puts more stress and strain on the relationship. So during this Mars retrograde, there's going to be, again, another look at these relationships for people. What are they bringing me? There's going to be energy healing between the people taking place. There's negative patterns of those relationships are being brought out more and more because you're not supposed to keep ignoring them. Okay, you're getting to the point where you have to face them. Some examples of what these negative patterns might be would be being nagged or doing nagging. Okay, these can go either way. Not being supportive. So you're not getting the support in that relationship, or you don't have the wherewithal to support that other person. Sometimes when the relationship's done and we don't have that loving feeling anymore, then we don't feel like showing up for that relationship, or the other person doesn't feel like showing up for you. You're just going through motions. And so it's not a fulfilling, supportive relationship any longer. This is going to be important because many of you that are trying to take that next step of your purpose, you might find that your karmic partner is creating resistance to that. Like they're not supporting you in that. Or even worse, they're trying to discourage you from doing something. The relationship might be very inconsistent. So the person might say things, but they don't follow through. They might make a lot of promises, especially if you're in a relationship with one of those narcissistic types. And those narcissistic types, right, they draw you in with a lot of promises. They promise that they're going to change, they're going to do better, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And then none of that ever happens. It was just a way to reel you back in. Or if you're even looking at those relationships with friends and family, the inconsistency might be like, I have to do all the work. This person, they're not prioritizing me, and I'm trying to prioritize them. So those relationships are out of balance. And either something needs to shift or they might need to leave your sphere in some cases. Or there might be battling with the need to be right. That's need to be right is definitely Mars energy. Now, remember, Mercury is retrograde too. So people from the past could be showing up in your life. Maybe you need to do energy healing with them, solve something. A big focus of this Mars retrograde is going to be avoidant bonding. One of the issues here is that, and it's 1:44 on the clock right now, everybody, just saying. One of the issues with that avoidant bonding is that oftentimes the karmic relationships have eroded self-worth for people. It might have been a partner that put you down or didn't respect you or treated you like you were less than, treated you like you were the servant, or even worse, going into that narcissistic type of relationship. And so when our self-worth is eroded, we do tend to avoid relationships. Our Mars wants to avoid that because that previous relationship caused very strong defensive boundaries. Now we have to learn to back off of that. I think during this Mars retrograde, one of those foundational issues for people is going to be rebuilding self-confidence from these dysfunctional relationships. You need to value yourself in order to take that next step into your purpose. One of our goals through this time period is learning to see our own value and not projecting our value onto other people. So looking for other people to show us that we're good, or, well, if this person likes me, then I must be a good person. Somehow there's some projection going on, or the projection that that person is more valuable than you are. So a lot of the divine masculine have embodied the pattern of avoidant bonding. And that is a big area of resistance to reunion. So that has to be worked through. And one of the things that I'm getting is that a lot of the masculine are staying in karmic relationships because it's their way of hiding or avoiding their twin. So if they're in another relationship, they have this safe place, allegedly safe place, to run to, so they have an excuse not to come towards their feminine energy. I mean, I'm saying they claim it's a safe space because a lot of those relationships are not a safe space for the divine masculine, because that karmic partner is likely to be abusive or negative or eroding of the self-worth in some respect. Basically, a lot of them have been abused, if not by the karmic, then in their parental relationships, or other romantic relationships previous to that. Of course, it all stems from our past lives as well. But that avoidance is basically a fear response of that Mars energy, not wanting to let down the guard and be defensive and allow their divine feminine in. So I think this Mars retrograde is providing an opportunity for significant shifts in this area, which is really going to help twins even just connect more, communicate more, and take some next steps. So a lot of fear is going to be transmuted during this Mars retrograde. A lot of projections, especially what you're projecting onto your twin, can be transmuted. And I'm getting that there's going to be a deeper awareness of what the twin really is. And this has been coming up in readings too. I've been getting a lot of, I'm studying twin flames, I'm learning about twin flames, it feels right. Not just the feminine, but I'm getting that about the masculine. So they're connecting the dots about what twin flames really are. But I do expect that there'll be some times of testing. Look for being stuck in obsessive thoughts. Fear about losing the twin connection might come up. There's going to be energetic merges between twin flames that you and your partner are likely to feel. And there is going to be pressure to communicate with your twin. And some of that can be coming from fear of losing the connection, like fear of not taking action and that the other person might move on. And of course, the underlying theme to all of that is healing previous relationship trauma, both in this lifetime and other lifetimes. So let's take a look at the astrology chart and the Sabian symbols. One interesting thing here that I noted was that Mars is going retrograde at 3:33 p.m. in the Pacific Standard Time Zone. So 333, and then the North Node and the South Node are at 333 Aries Libra. So the Ascended Master energy coming in very strongly at this time period. The Sabian symbol for Mars retrograde is the wonder of the constellations of stars in the night sky. So really beautiful Sabian symbol that is confirming that we're reaching for new levels of consciousness with this, not just Mars retrograde, but this whole time period. Let's read a little bit. The bigger questions are likely to be in your mind at the moment. Simple issues will be viewed against a backdrop of something greater. This helps to keep your life in perspective. This symbol is about the need to see the patterns in what is going on around you. Rather than looking at each thing separately, step back and see the wider view. Allow your imagination and intuition to create an inspiring vision that gives answers and directions to your life. So the Sabian symbols here for the North and the South Node both deal with relationships. The South Node deals with those larger groups of people in our life, and the North Node deals with more romantic relationships. Remember, they're at 333. So the South Node is on a group of young people sit in spiritual communion around a campfire. So we have a group of people, and to me, this Sabian always brings up this kind of idealized Aquarian age energy, people sitting around a campfire, sharing. They all have kind of a similar vision. So I do feel like the Sabian could be saying that, your soul family could be coming back into the picture for some reason during this time period. Maybe you're meant to just have some kind of spiritual connection with them, share something, or to heal something. Now, the North Node, which is in Aries, is on the Sabian symbol. Two lovers are strolling through a secluded walk. So this one, like I said, is more about romantic relationships. Let's read a little bit of the key words. Walking love's path, secret love affairs, seeking shelter from others' eyes, romantic quiet moments, seclusion and peace, desired destinations, relationships that are solid and satisfying. Remember, the North Node is where we're going. So where we're going is we want to create relationships that are solid and satisfying. So how do we get there? Cautions are being selfish by keeping one's partner or friend to oneself, jealousy, feeling left out or uninvited, narrow-minded responses to people, loneliness or the desire to be left alone, denial of the self and of needs, not wanting contact, seeing one's partner as a possession. You can see the North Node here is coming into a conjunction with Neptune. And this is going to be very transformational for our relationships as well, for our higher consciousness. This is going to be coming up during this winter transformation. The North Node is going to shift soon. They're actually going to be exchanging signs. The North Node will be going into Pisces and Neptune's going into Aries, but they're going to cross each other. So that will be another pivotal transformation that we'll talk about in the future. But also going with this relationship theme here, we have Chiron making an opposition to Black Moon Lilith, and you can see that Union and Atlantis are here. Now, Union and Atlantis are coming to the end of their transit. Remember, they've been together for most of the year, since February, and at the end of December, they're starting to separate from each other. So this was that year that we healed a lot of the idea of separation that comes from Atlantean programming. But yeah, Chiron opposing Black Moon Lilith. This could be another big transit. You know, I expect that there's going to be a lot of healing and clearing within ourselves. There could be a lot of triggers. I think that a lot of you are much better at dealing with your triggers than you were several years ago. But nevertheless, triggers are going to be there. We are part of the collective, and we're helping the collective energy transmute a lot of negativity and a lot of programming right now. How we help them do that is by experiencing it. And through the experience, we're able to transmute it and release it. Just keep that in mind. This could be a very emotional time. Now, with Black Moon Lilith, which is opposing Chiron now, but going forward, Chiron, Black Moon Lilith, and Mars are going to be in a T-square with each other. And I feel this is going to be bringing up a lot of dark and negative energy between men and women. Now, this is a long journey with this, right? So this is more of like a past life energy or a soul journey energy where the masculine and feminine have been in this power struggle, control, and the negative things that have happened. But what has been coming up for me to look at increasingly over the last, I'm going to say 3 to 6 months, is a lot of situations where there's been SA. I want to watch the words that I use because YouTube will dock my video if I say certain words. But I think all of you can understand what SA is. I'll say things like dominating, like the male dominating the female in multiple ways. Abuse that the feminine has suffered at the hands of the masculine. I feel like during Mars and Venus retrograde, this is going to be coming up. And it's showing up in the collective in a lot of ways. I'm contemplating doing a whole separate video on it. But how do we transmute that energy of the past, and how do we create a new timeline where that distorted masculine is not acting out in those negative ways? Now, there's a distorted feminine too, and that's something that we can talk about. So don't think that I'm picking on the masculine, because some of this stuff I see women doing some really brutal things these days as well. But I think what it comes down to is how to trust masculine energy. Like if you're feminine, if you're a feminine energy, if you're in a female body, how to trust the masculine energy when not only have you suffered abuse in other lifetimes, you may have suffered abuse in this lifetime, or you see them doing despicable behavior, some of them, not all of them, of course. How do we transmute that? That's going to be a question for us. An example of what I'm talking about is some of you may have seen this case going on in France where this woman who I think they're in their 60s. This woman was married for over 30 years, and she finds out one day from the police that her husband, for like years and years, has been drugging her to put her to sleep and then inviting other men into their home to take advantage of his wife while she's asleep. And over 70 men are on trial for this. Now, that's just the ones that were caught. So it makes you question, okay, what is going on that a man would see a situation like that and go, oh, yeah, I want to take advantage of that. Like, these people lived in a small town, and all these men were willing to do this. So then where does that leave women? Because not only was this woman now having to suffer the consequences of SA, but this person that she trusted and she was married to for decades has betrayed her in the worst possible way. This is the kind of energy I'm talking about. How can we transmute this and get past it? This is the Black Moon Lilith energy. Black Moon Lilith can be the distorted feminine. It can also be like how the feminine energy is wounded. It's like the shadow of the Venetian, I should say the Venusian energy, the shadow side of it. Like Pluto is the shadow side of the Mars energy. So with Chiron opposing Lilith, that might be something that comes up for you in your life. Maybe something happened to you in the past and now you have to revisit it because it's been a limitation for you. Maybe it's some past life energy, or maybe it's just some kind of negative feeling towards men in general, a hatred of men, a fear of men that is creating limitations for you. But yeah, you can see Union here opposing Chiron at the time that Mars goes retrograde too. So now there is merging of the masculine and feminine energy, and that could definitely be coming through with Chiron oppose Union. But we're withdrawn at this time, and we're just doing a lot of inner reflection, because I think a lot of people are feeling that the time is coming to make certain decisions about your life, and that's where some of the stress and pressure is coming from. So here's the chart for the Gemini full moon on December 15th. This is when Mercury stations to go direct on this day. But what I want to show you is that you can see that Venus has moved from 29 degrees of Capricorn to 9 degrees of Aquarius. So this is where Venus is going through this Mars-Pluto opposition while Mars is stationed. So could be some rocky shifting energy, and you can see that Lilith is almost in an exact opposition with Chiron when we get to this full moon in Gemini. Mars, Mercury, and the North Node are in a trine as well, and that could be creating that pressure to communicate, whether it's communicating with your twin or if there's somebody else that you're in a relationship with that you feel the need to talk. That might come up. I want to mention too quickly, because this is something that might show up. Venus, at the day Mars goes retrograde, Venus is on the 29th degree of Capricorn. Now Pluto was on that degree for an extended period over the last year or two. And the Sabian for that is directors of a large firm meet in secret conference. So something could come up on the world stage in regards to something being exposed about the elite or government basically people behind the scenes. Something could be coming out or exposed about that. So here's the chart for Mars direct, which happens on February 23rd. And the interesting thing about this time period, well, first of all, you can see that Mars is in square to Chiron, but also Mars is square to Venus, and Venus is on the degree that she's going to station on. She's stationing to go retrograde on March 1st at 10 degrees of Aries. This is added to this configuration with the moon, which is opposing Mars. The moon is the ruler of Mars in Cancer. So adding some level of closure, I feel. Now, it's not closed in the sense that we're going from Mars retrograde into Venus retrograde. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel like it's around this time where Mars stationed direct that you're going to get some kind of insight. And it might be something that you didn't even have a clue about right now. Okay, today's the 4th, 2 days before Mars goes retrograde. So something could maybe do like a 180 degree in your mind. Or you have some kind of breakthrough coming. And it's likely to have to do with relationships or that emotional foundation, and maybe both things. But there's just so much going on. That's why I have to break these videos down into parts. So, this is the 23rd of February. Let me tell you guys what you can expect in March. So going into March, Mars is still going to be on his degree of his station. But we also have Venus going retrograde, as I said, on March 1st, I believe March 1st or 2nd. Then we have a lunar eclipse. Then we have Mercury retrograde again. Then we have the spring equinox. Then we have a solar eclipse. And we also have this stellium in Pisces building. As I said, the North Node and Neptune are switching signs. They are coming into a conjunction in February. And we have Saturn moving into a conjunction with Neptune and the North Node. We also have Venus running through, I'm going to say the gauntlet, because Venus has to cross over these. Then Mercury has to cross over these planets, and the Sun has to cross over these planets. And there's going to be, I don't have that chart up. But it's during, I think, one of these eclipses in March where I saw in the chart, I feel like that's the time frame where the karmic contracts are done. And it has to do with this stellium that's building in Pisces. So a lot of things happening and shifting. So what I'm going to do now is just pull some cards from the Divine Masculine. And these will be just messages in general about the masculine energy. But if you want to draw a number between 1 and 6, and you can draw more than one number if you want, ask for that number to give you a specific message about your Divine Masculine. Okay, so the first card is number 1. I'm looking for a way out of this situation so I can be free. Number 2, our energy is stagnant. Triggers sometimes happen to break the stagnancy and help the energy flow again. Card number 3. I've been giving my power away to people in my life. I'm learning to set boundaries. Number 4, these feelings overwhelm me and I become afraid. Sometimes I even run away from you because of it. Card number 5, I'm triggered. An old pattern has surfaced and it hurts. Card number 6 is I'm not happy. Karma, either behavior, person, or situation, is playing a role in what's happening with me, and it's hard for me to see a way out. So thank you everybody for tuning in. A few people have sent me donations in the last couple weeks, and I just want to say thank you to them. Your generosity is so appreciated. If you would like a personal reading with me, you can check out the link to my website in the description box below. Otherwise, I'm sending you all a ton of love, and I'll be back soon.